chosen ones. The air trembles when truth is about to be revealed. Deep within the Vatican, where marble corridors echo with centuries of whispered secrets, a trace of you was already written into their archives long before your birth. The ancient libraries, sealed beneath guarded chambers, carry prophecies that priests dare not read aloud. Yet, when the Vatican traced the frequency of a soul unlike any other, your name surfaced in prophecy, as though inked by an unseen hand. For centuries, popes have carried burdens of hidden knowledge, knowing that a generation would arrive whose DNA carried the resonance of the eternal covenant. Files locked in brass-sealed drawers and scrolls sealed in wax speak of an individual marked not by choice, but by destiny. The moment those files aligned with the celestial omens charted by the Vatican's own astronomers, it became undeniable. You were not random. You were foretold. Inside the Apostolic Palace, it is said the Pope himself received the signal. At midnight, when the bells of Rome rang faintly over the city, his chamber was lit only by candlelight. Before him lay a manuscript too sacred for daylight, one that whispered of a soul who would unsettle both kingdoms of men and thrones of the unseen. He waited, not in fear, but in recognition. Recognition that what was prophesied had begun to unfold. The Vatican is not merely a seat of power. It is a vessel of secrets, stretching back to temples older than Rome itself. Beneath the stones lies knowledge carried forward from civilizations erased from memory. Atlantis, Sumer, and the sacred temples of the Anunnaki. They preserved fragments of truth that your very presence now brings into resonance. The moment you awakened to who you are, their silence ended. And so they traced you, not through technology, nor through politics, but through prophecy that moves beyond time itself. The Pope's waiting is not coincidence. It is alignment. They believe the one who stands at the edge of this revelation is the bridge between what was sealed and what is now breaking open. But the scrolls only reveal the beginning, not the end. For prophecy never completes itself in ink. It completes itself in you. Your blood carries a resonance the Vatican could never ignore. Long before scientists mapped genomes or priests guarded scrolls, it was spoken that the chosen would bear a living code, written not on parchment, but within their very cells. The DNA spiral, twisting like Jacob's ladder between heaven and earth, holds frequencies that the ancient mystics understood as gateways. Every double helix becomes more than biology. It is scripture etched into the flesh. When your lineage was traced, the sequence revealed markers not found in ordinary bloodlines, symbols aligned with sacred geometry, harmonics that vibrate with the words of forgotten prophets. In secret laboratories beneath the Vatican, guarded by silence thicker than stone, scholars of both faith and science reviewed the sequence connected to you. They discovered not mutations, but alignments. Patterns shaped like ancient sigils, repeating codes that seemed less random and more intentional, as though authored by a divine hand. Priests recognized the formations as mirrors of passages hidden in the Dead Sea Scrolls, where letters once thought meaningless suddenly echoed through genetic design. A scripture within you was awakened, not through reading, but through living. The Vatican does not reveal such findings openly. To the public, they speak in parables and doctrine. But within the locked chambers, the whispers say a prophecy encoded itself into flesh, waiting for one to bear it. They call it the Living Testament. body infused with destiny. And when the name surfaced, it was not a matter of belief, but of recognition. The prophecy had chosen its vessel. Your DNA does not merely carry ancestry, it carries memory. Resonances that awaken when the right frequency is spoken, when the right scripture is read aloud, when the right prayer is uttered in the silence of night. The ancients called it the key of life, the code that unlocks gates between worlds. You may feel it at times not as knowledge but as weight, as if destiny itself breathes through your veins, urging you toward places you have not yet walked, toward truths you have not yet spoken, and yet the code remains incomplete without the unfolding of the path before you. What they traced is only the beginning, a signal of what lies waiting beyond the veil, beyond the doors they dare not open until you arrive. Deep within the Vatican archives lies a labyrinth few have ever entered. Behind heavy oak doors and marble corridors stretching beneath the city of Rome are vaults sealed by centuries of papal decree. Shelves rise like endless pillars, carrying manuscripts wrapped in leather, scrolls tied with fading cords, and files marked with symbols unfamiliar to modern eyes. Among these layers of secrecy is where your name surfaced, written in documents, not from this century, but from an age when empires still trembled beneath prophecy. The story told by these files is not linear. It is fragmented, recorded by monks who claimed they wrote not by choice, but by inspiration, as if compelled by a presence greater than themselves. In one file, a description of a figure emerges, someone bearing the mark of light in their lineage, a spirit whose arrival would fracture silence across kingdoms. The handwriting, though faded, insists this one would not come by political power, but by divine appointment, carrying truth that cannot be confined by walls of stone. Among the archivists who stumbled upon these texts, whispers spread quickly. One passage described a man in Galilee who once spoke of a time when hidden things would be shouted from rooftops, when what was concealed in darkness would be brought into light. The mention of Yeshua's words was more than coincidence. The archivists recognized that the files carried threads that tied prophecy to his voice, suggesting that your unfolding was not separate, but interwoven with the same stream of destiny he once proclaimed. Rome's highest guardians know what these files imply. They have watched history bend around the arrival of individuals marked with divine fingerprints, yet never had the detail been this precise. Your name, aligned with celestial signs and genetic resonance, forced even the most skeptical into silence. These documents were not predictions. They were confirmations, echoing across time that what once was spoken is now manifest. Still, the files stop short of completion. They carry fragments, but never the whole. Some pages are missing, as though torn deliberately, leaving only questions in their absence. The archivists know that until you step into the very chambers where those documents rest, the missing pieces will remain beyond reach, locked in silence until the appointed one arrives. The corridors beneath St. Peter's Basilica are colder at night, where marble gives way to stone, and the silence presses against the skin like a weight. It was there, in the private crypt where centuries of pontiffs lie entombed, that the Pope descended in secrecy. No entourage, no guards, only a single candle illuminating the winding steps. He carried with him the file, the one traced to your name, sealed with the wax of ancient insignia. The chamber he entered was not marked on any public blueprint. A hidden chapel carved into rock before Rome's foundations even rose. In that chamber, the Pope knelt before an altar older than Christianity itself, its surface marked with symbols etched into stone by hands long forgotten. He placed the phial upon it and whispered prayers in Latin, words meant to pierce the veil of time. There was no audience, no cathedral choir, only the echo of his breath and the flicker of flame against stone. He was not waiting for approval or confirmation. He was waiting for alignment. The prophecy said the appointed would stir when silence grew too heavy for the world to bear. And in his midnight vigil he believed that silence had already been broken. Whispers among those closest to the Vatican say the Pope did not sleep that night. Instead, he remained in that chamber, reading line by line through the fragments that spoke of you. His hands trembled not from age, but from recognition. Every passage carried weight beyond words, each sentence seeming to open into a dimension of truth where time blurred. The vigil became less an act of devotion and more a watchtower, a waiting. He believed that as the night gave way to dawn, the first ripple of your arrival would already be in motion. The candlelight dimmed and shadows lengthened across the altar. He did not close the phial. He did not seal the prophecy away. He left it open, resting upon the stone, as if to signal to the unseen that he was ready. Ready not to control what was written, but to witness it unfold. Long before the Vatican traced your name, ancient astrologers mapped the heavens to understand the unfolding of destiny. The stars were not seen as distant fires, but as living records, each constellation reflecting stories written into bloodlines upon the earth. When your lineage was examined, it was not just genetics that startled the hidden watchers. It was the alignment of your ancestry with celestial patterns that had been charted thousands of years ago. Each ancestor carried a fragment of a design, threads weaving across continents and centuries until the chart revealed a convergence pointing directly to you. The archivists found manuscripts describing a star rising in a forgotten quadrant of the sky, a light that would not be recognized by ordinary eyes, but that would herald the emergence of one carrying a covenant hidden within flesh. When astronomers of the Vatican compared this to modern celestial software, the impossible became undeniable. The alignment matched your birth, down to the exact hour. The convergence was not coincidence. It was design. This is why the whispers in Rome grew heavier. In the silence of the archives, a priest pointed to a line of scripture where Yeshua once said, "The very hairs of your head are numbered." To them, it was not merely a statement of divine care, but a revelation that even the smallest detail of existence was mapped in the cosmic order. If the hairs are counted, how much more the stars? How much more the patterns hidden in your bloodline that match the heavens themselves? And so, the prophecy was no longer just theory. It became a living map, one in which your presence unlocked the hidden geometry. Every ancestor before you carried fragments of the star-born chart, but only in you did it complete. The realization shook the quiet halls of those sworn to secrecy, for this meant the convergence was not a distant age away. It was here, embodied in you. Yet the final layer of the chart remains concealed. The Vatican's own astronomers admit there is a missing piece, a hidden constellation spoken of, but never mapped, a set of stars that only appear once every few millennia. They wait, uncertain, watching the sky for the sign they fear and anticipate in equal measure. There are whispers that deep within the Vatican's marble walls, the echoes of Yeshua's words never faded. not the words written in ink, but the resonance carried in stone, vibration lingering in corridors where prayers rise like incense. Some priests claim that during midnight vigils, when the city of Rome falls silent, a faint voice can be heard moving through the halls, an echo, repeating words spoken 2,000 years ago. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, nothing concealed that will not be known and brought to light. These words now stir more urgently than ever, as though they awaken precisely at the moment your name surfaced in the prophecy files. The guardians of the archives recognize that warnings are not threats, they are reminders of inevitability. Yeshua spoke often of veils being torn, of truth breaking through walls built by men. The Vatican knows that these walls, no matter how thick or ancient, cannot silence what has already been set in motion. It is said that certain chambers tremble when those words are recited, as though the stones themselves remember. Those who stand within feel the pulse of something greater than history, greater than doctrine, a vibration aligning with what has now been uncovered in you. Your presence in prophecy has forced old whispers into new urgency. Those who have guarded secrets for centuries now fear that their silence can no longer hold. The very air in the apostolic palace grows heavy with anticipation, as if every relic, every scroll, every locked drawer senses that the one written about is moving closer. The Pope himself is said to have paused in prayer when the scripture was read aloud, his lips repeating the words of Yeshua with weight, not ritual. He knows the meaning is no longer abstract. It has found flesh, and that flesh bears your name. But even now, there are chambers within Rome that remain sealed. Rooms where inscriptions older than the basilica are hidden. Rooms where words carved into stone walls have yet to be read aloud in this era. They say those inscriptions echo only when the appointed one arrives, their voice completing the resonance that has been waiting in silence. High above the streets of Rome, beyond the domes and statues that crown the Vatican, there is an observatory. Few are permitted to enter. Its telescopes are not for public stargazing, but for charting signs that carry weight beyond science. For centuries, the Vatican's astronomers have recorded celestial patterns, often disguising their notes as harmless studies of comets and planetary shifts. Yet, within those records lies a hidden layer of interpretation, one tied not to science, but to prophecy. It was during a quiet night, when the skies over Rome seemed ordinary, that the instruments detected a light unlike any other. It was not a star in the usual sense, nor a passing body. Its movement defied calculation, shifting in ways that suggested intention rather than chance. The astronomers, trained in silence, documented the coordinates and matched them against the hidden star maps stored in the archives. The result was staggering. The omen aligned perfectly with the timeline connected to your name. This was not the first time they had seen strange lights. Ancient manuscripts record luminous signs that appeared before great upheavals, before kingdoms fell, before leaders rose, before truth shifted the course of history. Yet, this light differed. It pulsed with a rhythm, almost like breath, almost alive. When magnified through their instruments, it seemed to shimmer as though aware of being observed. Some claimed it flickered in response to prayer whispered under their breath. The omen's coordinates matched not just prophecy, but bloodline. When compared with genealogical charts locked in sealed Vatican files, the light traced across constellations that mirrored your ancestral pattern. It was as though the heavens themselves were calling out, marking the very moment when prophecy would not remain hidden. The astronomers exchanged no public word, yet within their silence they knew. They had tracked a signal that revealed the appointed one had entered at the threshold of their age. But the omen did not remain in place. After a brief appearance, it vanished, leaving no trace in the skies. Only their private records hold evidence of what was seen. Now they wait, unsure when the light will return or what it will unveil when it does. Beneath the Vatican lies a chamber not spoken of in official records, a room whispered about only in fragments among those who serve closest to the papal throne. Its entrance is marked not by locks or iron gates, but by carvings so intricate that many believe they hold the very vibration of guardianship. Those who have approached describe the overwhelming sense that the room itself is alive, that unseen presences stand at its threshold. They do not call them guards of flesh and blood, but guardians of light, the kind the ancients once described as angels. Legends say this chamber was constructed during the earliest centuries, long before the basilica above reached its grandeur. The stone bears markings that scholars have traced to civilizations older than Rome, symbols resembling the same geometric patterns found in sacred texts and star charts. The Vatican has long kept this hidden, for the chamber does not hold relics of gold or treasures of empire. It holds scrolls that carry prophecy untouched since they were sealed. The scrolls cannot be opened by ordinary hands. Witnesses claim that on rare occasions, faint wings of light shimmer within the room, like shadows of a greater presence brushing against the veil. Those who dared to step too close spoke of a weight pressing upon their chest, forcing them back as though invisible hands had denied them entry. One priest recorded in his journal that when he attempted to speak scripture aloud before the chamber, the air thickened until he could no longer breathe. It is said the inscriptions within the chamber echo the words once spoken by Yeshua, "He who has ears, let him hear." To the faithful, this is a reminder that truth cannot be forced upon the unwilling. It must be received by those appointed to bear it. The Vatican fears that only one carrying the alignment of prophecy can pass into that chamber and awaken the scrolls. For centuries, they have waited, wondering who could complete the resonance. Now, with your name traced to their files, whispers suggest that the guardians are not merely waiting, they are watching. The chamber has grown restless, as though the presence it has awaited moves closer with every passing hour. In the deepest levels of the Vatican's archives, sealed within stone vaults untouched by daylight, there are scrolls that scholars could never force open. For centuries, they remained bound by cords that frayed with age, but never loosened. Their wax seals intact, though the centuries eroded everything around them. Attempts to cut them failed. Attempts to burn them yielded nothing but ashless smoke. It was as though the scrolls themselves resisted intrusion, preserving a silence that defied time. When your name surfaced in prophecy, the guardians of these vaults felt compelled to try again. This time, something shifted. As the scrolls were brought into the chamber where your bloodline had been mapped, the wax cracked of its own accord. The cords unraveled as though undone by unseen hands. The parchment opened with no resistance, and for the first time in recorded memory, the words within revealed themselves. The writing did not resemble ordinary ink. It shimmered faintly, changing under the light, as if alive. Those who leaned closer claimed the letters pulsed like a heartbeat, glowing faintly before fading back into silence. When read aloud, the language echoed across the stone walls, not like sound, but like vibration reverberating in the marrow of the bones. It was not simply read, it was experienced. What startled the guardians most was not only that the scrolls had opened, but that their contents aligned perfectly with the moment of your discovery. The text spoke of a vessel of prophecy, one who would be both known and hidden, both ordinary in appearance, yet carrying within them the convergence of ages. The timing was undeniable. The scrolls had remained locked for centuries until the alignment with you was made, as though they had been waiting for your arrival. Still, even in their unveiling, the scrolls did not give away everything. Certain passages blurred as soon as they were read, dissolving before the eyes of the readers. The more they sought clarity, the more the words shifted, retreating into mystery. It was as though the scrolls themselves refused to reveal their fullness until the one written about would stand in their presence. And so, though the scrolls are open, their final revelation remains withheld. In the stillness of the Apostolic Palace, long after the lights of St. Peter's Square faded into night, the Pope sat in solitude with the documents that carried your name. His hands rested on the parchment, fingers trembling not from weakness, but from the weight of recognition. He had read countless prophecies throughout his life, scrolls and scriptures preserved across centuries, yet none struck his spirit as these did. For in these writings, he found not theory, not myth, but the undeniable shadow of your existence. Those closest to him say his demeanor changed after that night. He spoke less, listened more, and often lingered in prayer beyond dawn. In the chapel, his whispers were not of politics or world affairs, but of a destiny he had come to understand could no longer be delayed. One passage in particular haunted him, words once spoken by Yeshua. "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." He repeated it quietly, as though realizing that the prophecy written of you carried the same echo, that what the world had overlooked, what powers had dismissed, would rise as the foundation of an age yet to come. It was said that, during a moment of prayer, he leaned close to one of his most trusted confidants and spoke the words few dared to utter. "You were foretold." His voice was not filled with fear, but reverence. The confession carried the weight of centuries, as if he had unburdened the Vatican itself of its silence. Yet even as he spoke it, he knew the prophecy remained incomplete. His words were not an ending, but a recognition of a beginning that could no longer be denied. Still, he chose not to declare it publicly. The world outside these walls was not ready. Instead, he guarded the whisper, a secret meant for the appointed time, carrying it like a torch hidden beneath the robes of silence. For he understood that prophecy never announces itself to the masses. It reveals itself only when the one it speaks of steps into their appointed place. And so, the Pope waits still, holding the weight of knowledge few dare to carry, watching the horizon for the moment when secrecy must yield to revelation, beneath layers of stone older than Rome, hidden beyond catacombs where only the most trusted priests have walked. There stands a gate sealed by hands no one remembers. It is not crafted like ordinary doors of wood or iron, but carved entirely from a single slab of stone, its surface etched with symbols that no scholar has fully deciphered. For centuries, the Vatican has kept its existence veiled, guarding it with silence, for they know this gate does not open by keys nor by force. It opens only to one. Legends tell that when the foundation of St. Vaha St. Peter's was laid, builders stumbled upon this chamber. They reported hearing a resonance like a deep hum rising from the stone, as though the gate itself was alive. Attempts to break through failed. Hammers shattered, chisels dulled, and yet the surface remained untouched, its carvings glowing faintly when struck by candlelight. Priests declared it sacred and ordered the chamber sealed. Only whispers of its purpose lingered, passed down to a chosen few across generations. The inscriptions speak of a threshold between worlds. They describe a passageway not to another room, but to another state of being, a crossing that can only be unlocked when the appointed one stands before it. Scholars call it metaphor. Mystics call it destiny. The Vatican calls it prophecy. But all agree on one thing: the gate waits. In recent years, unusual occurrences have unsettled the chamber. Witnesses claim the symbols on the gate have begun to pulse faintly, glowing with a rhythm like breath. At times, the stone hums so deeply the walls tremble, though no earthquakes are recorded. The guardians interpret this as a sign that the one written of has drawn near. They believe the gate recognizes presence long before flesh arrives. No one dares step too close, for the air thickens around it, pressing heavily against the chest, forcing even the boldest priests to retreat. It is as though the gate itself refuses to be touched by anyone unmarked by destiny. And so it stands, sealed, waiting for the appointed step, for the moment when prophecy and presence align. But the stone has begun to stir.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.